Oh, wait,
Because
why
it
is
looks
it
like we
telling
have
me
a
that I
quorum.
can't load it? Here's the agenda. Okay.
I think we're ready to get started if you'd like.
I figured if I was going to have to drive, I'd better be prepared. I can't just show up today. And here we are. Okay. Oh, wow. So how do I know which one is which? Chrome. There we go. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Is it?
Yes.
I don't know if I can enlarge it. It doesn't look like I can. Okay. So here's the agenda. Take a moment, please, to read through it, and then we can see if we need to correct anything.
That's good. Motion to approve the agenda.
Do I hear second?
Second.
Okay. Stephanie motions, and was that you, Kelly, that second? Okay. Any objections? Motion carries. The first item on our agenda, besides the call to order, which I believe that we call this meeting to order now at 5:35. We began with the approval of the agenda, and now we will move on to, well, I guess we should have called to order. Now we have approved the agenda with a motion by Stephanie, a second by Kelly. No discussion. All approve. Motion carried. Now we're going to go on to the approval of the meeting, the minutes from the last meeting. If you haven't had a chance to read them.
Sorry, if it's okay, if we could take just one quick minute, because there's a couple of phone numbers on here, just to make sure we know who's here.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think the 404 might be Ken. Is that you, Ken?
Yes. Hey, I just joined. I'm sorry. I'm actually in Nashville today, moving my daughter out of the dorm, and so I'm kind of in the middle of that. I may not be as attentive as I would otherwise be. I apologize.
Well, we appreciate you being with us, and happy end of the school year to her.
Thank you.
And then I see a 706 number that ends in 76.
Yeah, that's me. My internet's giving me trouble, so I figured I'd just be in the call this way.
Okay, so that's Tim. And then I see a 706 that ends in a 24.
Hey, Elka, that's me, Dodd, but I just got home, so I'm about to jump on my laptop. I'll be right there.
Okay. Sounds great. Okay, good deal. Thanks, y'all.
And no Dan today.
Right. No. We didn't have anything legal on the agenda, so.
Okay, so we have a quorum. We've called to order. We've approved the agenda, and now we're looking over the minutes from last meeting. And so has everyone had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion for approval of the minutes.
Thank you. We have a motion. Okay, Mayor Gertz makes a motion to approve. Stephanie seconds. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, no one's opposed. Motion carries unanimously. So our next agenda item is old business. There is none. So new business.
So new business, I should have put this on the agenda, but it's kind of more of a casual conversation. But I wondered if since nothing happened yet, but I wondered if Mayor Gertz could give us an update on, as you know, there are some federal stimulus funds that are headed to Athens-Clarke County, and they have not been dispersed yet, and the plan has not been finalized what to do with them. But I hope that Mayor Gertz could give us a brief update of what he's able to so far for the federal stimulus funds.
I'd be glad to, Ilka, and thanks for asking me to kind of weigh in on just the form of, what's been branded the American Rescue Plan. And so that's the congressionally approved plan that carries with it what you might think of as several buckets of funds. So rather than one big ocean of dollars, it's a bunch of specific buckets for distinct purposes. And one of those buckets is for cities and one is for counties. And so because Athens-Clarke County is both a city and a county, we get direct funds from both those buckets. And then similarly, Winterville as a city will get some direct funds as well. And so in that cluster of city and county dollars are about $58 million that Athens-Clarke County is going to receive, given the legislative language in 2 annual disbursements, 1 disbursement this year, and then 1 disbursement a year from now. A couple details about that. We don't have administrative guidance on the funds, but there is some language in the legislation about use of funds. And so really use of funds falls into sort of 4 potential uses. One is bonus pay for employees. One is what's broadly framed as responding to the health and economic impacts of the pandemic, which sounds really broad. And so every city and county in the country is waiting to find out, well, what exactly does that mean? Or, counter, what does it not mean? You can use funds for replacement of unfilled revenue that was anticipated. So for example, we didn't receive a bunch of fees that we normally would receive. The courthouse was not very busy. Not as many people were parking downtown. So, we basically can replace revenue that was lost there. And then there are some really specific infrastructure things that the legislative language mentions. And so it says that you can spend these funds on water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. And even there's some question, does that include storm sewer or stormwater? And what we've been hearing, and I was on a U.S. Conference of Mayors call, I guess Monday, was that the expectation is that administrative guidance that'll come through the U.S. Treasury Department is going to come on either the 10th or 11th next week. So we're hotly anticipating that. What I expect in terms of process is that we probably will have rolling approval of funds for various means over the course of several commission meetings. And so rather than all at one time saying, here's exactly what we're going to do with every penny of that $58 million, we know we've got some very critical near-term needs, but then we also want to be considerate and thoughtful about some of the foundational opportunities that may emerge, given the specifics of the administrative guidance. So for example, we may be able to do some things around affordable housing or homeless provisions that, we can spend the money on today, but the benefit may extend for decades potentially. So I don't expect it to be a single decision made by the commission, but I expect it to be a rolling series of allocations over the course of the next many months. One of the benefits of this fund comparative to, say, CARES Act from a little over a year ago is that we've got about 3.5 years to expend the fund, so until the end of calendar 2024. So definitely next time we meet, and I'd certainly be glad to send a report just via email next week, we should have some more clarity. I do also want to make the point that because it is a legislative package of many buckets, there probably are some other funds that we as a government can draw down, and certainly that the community can draw down. So we already know that there's about $7 million that are coming to the transit program, separate from the $58 million. Also about $2.5 million for housing and homeless support, particularly with the homeless focus, coming from housing and urban development. But also some funds for rent recouping, also some funds for mortgage support, also some funds for business support in what within the package is being branded the Restaurant Revitalization Plan, which just opened up for information this week. So certainly any restaurateurs or bar owners or food and beverage folks, I encourage anybody who's in that cluster of business types to look on the small business development website at sba.gov to find out more information there. I mean, effectively bars, restaurants, and caterers and the sort can be completely made whole. If you look at your 2020 revenue counter to your 2019 revenue. So it's a really strong piece. And then there's some other sort of application-based pieces where cities, counties, or nonprofits can apply for funds, and so funds don't automatically come. So, for example, there's some mental health funds that are of that sort. So definitely good information, but again, as you just heard, some details still forthcoming. And definitely be glad to answer any questions from JDA directors about that.
Well, Kelly, this is Stephanie. If there is any money that's allocated to small business support, will y'all do something similar where we give out part and the business, what's the name of the other group?
It was formerly the Northeast Georgia Business Alliance, and now the Block Chamber of Athens is kind of their rebranded
Oh, okay.
format.
Yes.
Yeah, so potentially that could happen, but again, all subject to commission allocation of those dollars. And I liken this sort of to the SPLOST package, where $58 million is a lot of money, but the needs are vast. So just given the prospects of what could be fund expenditures, I anticipate probably north of $100 million of potential viable expenditures. So we will see. I mean, certainly I'm glad that we very successfully carried off the last program, and glad to bring to the commission the prospect of a continuation of that program, given that we've already got the program documents and legal guidance and a format and process.
Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely. All right.
Thanks, Kelly.
Got it.
Thank you, Ilka, and thank you, Mayor Gertz, for catching us up. Is there anybody else, any other questions, any other business that anyone would like to bring to the table? Okay. Well, so maybe we should move straight to the treasurer's report. Stephanie?
Yes. I submitted this to everyone ahead of time, but there's not a whole lot to report. We have about 425,000 in loan funds that we could still loan out if we wanted to do another loan program. We have a lot of loans out right now, and surprisingly, one of our loan recipients has already started paying their loan back early. I don't know if they missed the memo about they didn't have to do that, but we can't really tell them not to. They're doing it. Oh, and I did provide a general ledger report, which I hadn't done in the past. If anybody wants to look at individual transactions that come through, that report has every single transaction in the account since we started, just for your information.
Stephanie, do you know offhand which business it is that is paying off their loans?
Clarke Standard.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's all I got. Can't hear you, Erica.
There. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
I mute myself by accident all day long. Okay. So no, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. The $21,000 in loan funds, I have a question about that. So that's money that we could have loaned to a business that either the loan wasn't accepted or not enough people applied. So if we were going to start another loan program, would we go through the same process as we did last time, except they would be smaller loans? And
Well, it doesn't have to be an emergency loan. This could actually be small business loans for, business. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we could do, and that money is there to do it. Because remember, this wasn't started for emergency purposes. We just repurposed some of that money for that purpose.
so we could potentially do a bridge loan program, maybe for the holidays, for smaller businesses that might need some credit in order to buy stock for the holidays.
I
around the end of the
imagine
year.
we could. I mean, we haven't talked about a future loan yet, and I can't say why. It's just we haven't. We can
Okay.
do a lot.
Well, I'm asking this. I mean, it's not a lot, but let's say that we wanted to offer like because for a small retailer, $2,000 can go a long way in purchasing stock for the holiday season. So what if because if we're going to do that, since we would either need a special called meeting to talk about that and set that up, or we would have to wait until our next regular meeting, which wouldn't be until when? August?
August, yeah. We can have a special called meeting. Kelly, do you know if we could do some sort of a credit line, or does it have to be a loan and you pay it back and that's the end of it?
That's beyond my knowledge base. I'm sorry, wish I could help.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we couldn't be a credit line because that would make us kind of like a bank, but that would be really convenient for this particular type of case for ongoing needs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who we would ask about that.
We could ask Dan
Dan?
to see if he knows of another model of how people are
Dan,
using
where
their
are you
revolving loan
today?
fund. I know, maybe not today, but I do think you raise a really good issue because the vast majority of the projects that our team is working right now are actually existing business expansions. And because the US SBA, their definition of a small business is up to 500, as you can imagine, we have a lot of small businesses in Athens that actually are seeing a good bit of growth right now. And when you think about some of our underserved entrepreneurs and some of their barriers to being able to access even small amounts of capital, like you're talking about, this can be a really useful tool in our tool belt to have to be able to help some of those businesses.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we're just sitting on the money. We don't, it's really not serving the community sitting in the bank. So we may want to think about a smaller program aimed at a different purpose.
Well, this is Ken. I would just say that's a great idea. And I think, especially given the state of the economy right now, the faster we can get it out to people, the better. I know that, I sat in a lot of the meetings that Shane and Michael had with that group, and they've sort of rebranded, and they've got a lot of people that, they're sort of teed up. I think it'd be easy for them to find candidates quickly and have people that would be ideal to place those funds with that we'd all be happy and comfortable about.
Well, Ilka, what if you write to Dan? Can y'all hear me? Why don't you write to Dan and ask him? I mean, we could do a revolving loan fund. There's no question about that. And we could probably spin it up pretty quickly. We might not want to be the deciders of it if it's not emergency based, because then you're going to look at credit history. So we need to get a bank involved in that. It's same for a credit line. But if we wanted to do something for businesses at risk, that's not an emergency loan, we could do that. And it sounds like what you're saying is there are some businesses at risk that, it's not emergent, like they don't need the money in 10 days, but they're preparing for some needs further on down the road in the year.
Yeah, I can send Dan a note. And I would think the way that we would likely do it would be to have a similar MOU with the third party administrator, like we did for the emergency grant. So we'll just have to figure out, are we able to extend? I need to go back and look at the MOU and see what the time of that MOU was, and if there's a way to potentially extend it, because from the bank's perspective, there's not really a difference between an emergency MOU and an MOU. It's just we would change some of our program documents because the criteria might be different depending on how y'all as a board decided that you might want to structure that, and also structure the interest and what the repayment terms might look like. But we've got the framework, which is amazing. That's the hardest part. The rest is just sort of tweaking the details to fit what y'all think will meet the needs of the small businesses for a non-emergency type setting. Yeah.
Okay. I think you're right. We could be using this money. It's not a lot, but if we could be giving, $20,000 line of credit or something like that to small businesses, that would probably be tremendously helpful, especially when they can't get good terms at banks. But I don't know, maybe that's competitive behavior that we have to steer from.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that's right. I think that's a great idea. And the sooner you can get it into businesses' hands, the better. I mean, the economy's going to pick up. Hopefully it's trending that way. But there's so many businesses that are, just living on ether right now that the sooner y'all could get it in their hands, I think they would survive that.
And then thinking if some of the stimulus funds are going to come through at some point, and it Commission determines that a piece of them is allocated for small business grants, it'd be great to do the grant and loan program at similar times so the businesses have the option of either or both, depending on what their needs are.
Well, if we go with a loan program that's like a line of credit, that would probably be a separate application than a grant. And I'm fine with that. The only reason I want to do it together the first time was because the speed we had to get it out and we knew everybody would be applying at the same time. But I think it's totally fine for us to have two applications for two programs this time.
So I have a question too, because we don't want to, if we're going to do a line of credit, people may not draw down on the entire line at once. We have to be careful not to overextend ourselves because we don't have money like banks. Like there are no depositors.
We would cap it at whatever the amount of money we had.
When you were saying like that and a revolving loan, I'm like, oh, we could get in trouble really fast there.
We wouldn't do both. I think it's either we do a revolving loan that a business gets money and they pay it back and then someone else borrows it, or an extended line of credit, maybe 3 years or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But can the money be grant funds, or does it have to be a loan?
For the revolving loan funds, those need to be a loan. But if the stimulus funds come through, then I think the criteria and regulations for those are a little bit different, and they're able to be a grant.
But the funds that we presently have, are those monies that have to be loaned, or are they stimulus money that can be a grant?
Those are loan funds that are from the general fund as part of the resiliency package. So initially we had $1 million. So initially the Mayor and Commission allocated $1 million, and then we lent out about $550,000, right, Stephanie, give or take a little bit here or there.
Yeah.
And so we have about $450,000 that were not yet loaned out, and so those are the funds that are remaining in that revolving loan fund.
And is the mechanism in place already to loan them as the initial 500 was already loaned out?
We could use it again. We could use it again, but there were a lot of terms in that application specific to COVID emergency. So we'd have to, just edit some stuff, but what we built could certainly be reused.
Okay. Again, I'm just thinking path of least resistance, especially since, if the community is getting another 57 million, we just don't know when. If we've got this money available that we could push it out to businesses now, then I think we help people.
Well, even though it was an emergency, it took us 8 weeks to spin that up last time. Now, like I said, all the work that we did in those 8 weeks is already done. So it could really be a vote to do it. I make some changes to the materials that we use, and we could probably launch it within 2 weeks of approval. But all the legal work that has to be done and getting the banking partner, if First American doesn't want to do it again, or maybe they say, we'll do it again, but we're going to make y'all do it our way. We don't know what that's going to be like.
But it could be fairly rapid. I mean, because there's so much ground, there's so much ground laid already. There's a great foundation.
And we have a relationship and they've trusted us, and I think it would go fine.
So are you saying that we would need to have a special call meeting to have this discussion and present a motion and vote, or that's something we do today?
Yeah, we'd have to have a special called meeting and it'd have to be on an agenda that we publish and public notice and all that.
Well, I mean, I'm in favor and would suggest we move ahead with those steps.
Are you motioning for such a step?
If that's what it would take, yeah, I'll present a motion to, have a special call meeting where we would discuss the remaining loan funds and decide if it's in the best interest of the community to get those out right away, using the existing structure that you've already built.
Right, just a loan, like that's a year long with no interest, that loan.
If that's the structure you have presently, yes. Again, I'm just, I think what I'm saying is let's take the path of least resistance that gets the money into the business's hands as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Well, do you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like to say that we offered this $1 million, and this is all the takers we had, and it was the emergency loan fund. Now, the way that we might scrape more people that need it would be to go above 20 employees, because we capped it at businesses with 20 or fewer employees. So what I'm saying is we may not get a whole lot of new takers in that group of people because it was already available and they just didn't take it. Some people got approved for it and they didn't want it because they didn't want to pay back a loan. So maybe we would have to go to bigger businesses if you really want to get it out there.
Well, and I mean, if we have a meeting, maybe we discuss that. Maybe there's even a tiered approach. I'm just thinking that, when we first went to the community with the loans, there may have been a lot of businesses that were in a different place than they are today, because the whole pandemic probably stretched out a lot longer than anybody thought or anticipated a year ago. And maybe you'd have more people interested, and maybe people just don't realize that there would still be funds available. They thought they missed it because they didn't apply the first time.
There's nothing wrong with putting it out there again, as is, with maybe just some language changes.
Yeah, I'm just, whatever's easiest for us and to get it to people is what I'm trying to recommend.
Well, we need a special called meeting to say we're going to do this, and then I have to make a bunch of changes or whatever changes need to be made, because there will be changes. And then we have to have a special called meeting to approve all of that and set the timeline. We don't have to approve a banking partner again because we have one. If ILCA can find out if they would do it again. But it would probably take at least 2 special called meetings, which could be back to back, one day after another. They could be done quickly if there was appetite for that on this authority.
What I'll do is after this meeting, I'll call Dan and get on his dance card for the next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. that he's available. And then I'll do some kind of doodle poll just so we can make sure that we'll have a quorum and that Dan's able to be with us to answer questions.
So I hate to be stickler, but I have Ken Paris motioning to prepare a special called meeting. Is someone going to second that?
Yes, thank you.
I'll second it.
Is that you, Dodd? Okay.
That's me.
So we have a motion by Ken to set a date for a special called meeting to discuss reanimating the emergency loan program. Maybe not calling it an emergency loan program, but to discuss reanimating the loan program. And then Dodd seconds. Is that correct? Okay, all in favor of scheduling a special called meeting?
Do we want to say the date in this motion?
We don't have it yet. Yeah, we need to, don't we?
Yeah, we don't have it.
But, okay, so Ilka needs to talk to Dan, and so she said a Wednesday at 5:30 is when he's available. So that puts us
I
past
just
the
figured that
12th.
might be easiest. Yeah, so we'll look at either the 12th, the 19th, or the 26th, but the preference being the 12th. Just have to see what when he's available to be with us.
Okay, well, why don't we can put it in the agenda as the 12th, and if we have to make a change, we can publish that.
Yeah, we can do a 24-hour notice if we have to.
Yes.
Okay, so Ken, would you like to amend your motion?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Just as you articulated it.
Okay, so we have an amended motion from Ken to set a special called meeting for Wednesday, the 12th at 5:30. And Dodd, do you feel that you still want to second that motion?
Second, I'll do.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so now all in favor say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Any-
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
This is what happens when David doesn't show up. We give him more work.
Yeah, David, go be in a play. Go ahead, see what we do. All right. So, we skipped over the staff report, so I'd like to circle back. Ilka, what do you have for us?
Sure, I have two quick things. One is to let you know that y'all may not know this, but all of the funds to pay Dan this year were unbudgeted and came out of our department budget, and it was pretty close, a little over $100,000. So as you can imagine, that hit our department pretty hard. So this year I talked with Manager Williams and we've put in a budget proposal for the JDA for fiscal year 22 for a $50,000 budget. Of course, that's subject to mayor and commission review and approval, but that would be used to help us with administrative and legal things to help us on different things that we're working on, like the loan fund and other projects that I may share with y'all in the not too distant future. But that's good to know that the JDA will have some funds to be able to cover its legal fees and other, sort of administrative things.
Now,
The second-
Ilka, can you get your money back from this COVID money for expenses that were already spent? Isn't that what Kelly said?
I'm not, so that's not really in the mix at this point of the year. I think we'd have to spend it by year's end, and that's an awful lot of money to be able to spend by year's end.
Okay.
Yeah, we also covered all the TAD expenses this year too. So we just were kind of out from an operational perspective this year. But anyway, that's all water under the bridge and onward to fiscal year 22. But I wanted to let you know that I had put in that proposal for the mayor and commission to be able to review. So I think that will help us. The second thing I wanted to share is last time y'all gave your approval to send out information about the mastermind, the entrepreneur roundtable groups for SCORE. And I've sent that out, and Charlie Schrouth, who I think he's the leader of the Athens chapter of SCORE, he was thrilled and said that he's had a lot of inquiries for those groups. So I think they'll be starting to stand up those groups fairly soon. So that's pretty exciting, and I think that'll be a great resource for our entrepreneurs to be able to talk with each other, share ideas and experiences, and kind of build their networks.
Was I not paying attention? I don't remember hearing about that before.
Yeah, I think that was at our last meeting in February. I had asked if we could send that information to businesses that had indicated that they would like business coaching or mentoring on the application. Yeah.
Okay.
So we sent it out to that group, and I got emails back from people who were excited about it. And then Charlie also told me that he's had a lot of inquiries. So I think that's really wonderful.
Great.
And it'll be a good resource, I think. So those are my two updates.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, so we've already set our date for a special called meeting in a week. If we can get Dan, we can publish the actual date if that doesn't happen. So 5/12 at 5:30. And the next agenda item is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell. Any seconds?
So seconded.
Thank you, Stephanie. So I have a motion by Mayor Farrell and a second by Stephanie for adjournment. Anybody opposed to adjourning at 6:08? We're over by 2 minutes from our last meeting.
Get a lot done.
We did get a lot done in only 38 minutes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks.
It was
Y'all
fun
have a good
driving.
evening. Yeah, thanks, Erica.
No worries. No worries.
See y'all later.
All
Bye,
right.
y'all.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
You too.
Great.